Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're watching us from. And welcome to the 33rd edition of Leadership Talk with Adegoke. Tonight, I have with me Chioma Unegbu Abiazem, Dr. Mrs. She's an expert area of environment, and tonight we'll be talking, sharing on the topic, leadership and climate change. Leadership and climate change. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Trust your day has been well.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Can you
having
just
me.
it's a pleasure. Please can you just share with us who is Chioma?
Yeah. My name is Dr. Mrs. Chioma Vivian Unegbu Abiazem.
Yeah.
I am a lover of God. I love God so much. You know, the Bible says all things work together for good with those that love Him and who are called according to His
Purpose.
purpose.
Purpose. Yeah.
And so I don't have compromise on that. I love God so much. I am a wife married to Fortune Abiazem and a mother of 3 amiable children, a daughter and 2 girls. I would say I'm a go-getter. I'm a consistent performer. I am um, I am very passionate about my dreams, and I'm one who aspires to be the best version of myself. And I'm a lecturer in the Department of Science Laboratory Technology, Federal Polytechnic Ilaro. I lecture chemistry with specialty in environmental chemistry and pollution control. And
Okay.
so, what else? I think, yeah, I have attended a lot of conferences locally and internationally, UK, South Africa, and I have publications in reputable journals. I will also say that I am an environment icon. I think that's
When you
basically who I am.
when you say environment icon, what does that mean? Can you, in layman's terms, can you just
In
help
the
us?
normal term, somebody who is environmentally friendly always want to ensure that we don't have to lose our environment.
Okay.
So I'm environmentally friendly.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. I just want to celebrate you, and I want to salute your person and the area of your specialty. It's a very deep area that requires a lot of expertise, and you're speaking tonight um, to quite a number of people all over the world. And I want to say that we're so thankful that you're here tonight. No doubt tonight is going to be quite interesting because I think during the week there was the virtual leaders summit
Yeah,
on on climate change. Where we had about 40 leaders.
yeah.
Greetings. One of my John Maxwell coaches is online. Odemi Olaiwole is greeting, is saying hello, and
Hello.
so it's been an interesting week, no doubt. Globally, what leaders speaking to the issue of climate change. But before we jump into climate change, how did you get into leadership? Tell us, how did you
Network.
get into leadership?
Network.
No, we can hear you. How did you get into leadership?
Yeah. I would say that start by saying that leadership is an innate characteristics, that very few people possess. And then, as we all know, leaders direct, influence, motivate, and support others in accomplishing common tasks.
Yeah.
I also want to say that leadership is a lifestyle.
Okay.
Even in the home front, you are a leader as a father, as a mother, as a children. You are all leaders. So it's a lifestyle. It's something you do, often. You just find yourself doing that. And for you to be a good leader, you must be one that will lead yourself.
Lead yourself first before you can lead others. Sorry, there's a glitch in the in the yeah. I'm sure she will come back shortly. She was just talking about leadership. Yes. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yes,
Go
thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah.
So you must also add value to people you come across on a daily basis. That's actually what makes you a leader. And so for me, I have served under the tutelage of a whole lot of wonderful leaders that have trained me well, and have been able to train others also. And when it comes to leadership role, I enjoy it more in the area of research. I find great joy when I lead in the area of research. Like presently, I'm the cluster head of a research cluster in my institution, Go Green, Go Wealthy. And we are the first people who have submitted a proposal, and we have a project, a very beautiful project that will be attracting a grant from the federal government. So it gives me so much joy seeing myself leading in that capacity and having great success. And I had another experience, that I will want to share here, and that was during the COVID-19 lockdown. The management team, led by the rector of the Polytechnic, architect O.O. Aluko, PhD, he actually constituted a COVID-19 intervention team that fabricated a ventilator and a disinfectant booth. I was one
Okay.
of those members of the team, and I headed the unit that produced the disinfectant. And it was quite an interesting and a wonderful experience. This actually has come out to be a success because this equipment have been approved by federal government, and it has also gone far and wide. So
Wow.
with all these activities, it has actually, helped me in my leadership capability, and I know the task ahead is enormous.
Wow. We're so happy to get that gist. I mean, privileged information that you've been adding value. And my mentor John C. Maxwell would say that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Nothing
And
more,
I want to
nothing less.
salute you. And for women to be showing up even at a time like this, because there's no doubt that the pandemic has hit a lot of families, and most
Yes.
especially women, because they've had to cover the home front. But you are still showing up powerfully. And I want to also salute your husband, Fortune, is on the platform tonight, is rooting for you. I want you to speak to you know the area of leadership and climate change. What are your thoughts?
There are a whole lot of relationship between leadership and climate change. You see, climate change is driven by a lot of policies, and without leadership, these policies cannot be achieved. And so, and
Okay.
we also know that the issue of climate change is a very serious, great, and urgent challenge that the world is facing in this 21st century. And it is a
Okay.
typical collective action problem that is due to anthropogenic activities. And so, in
Okay.
order to tackle these collective action problems associated with climate change, leadership is essential.
Wow.
And that's why UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, has it reported that a world leader on climate change must be strong, credible, and consistent.
Hmm.
And it's the United Nations Environment Program, United Nations on the Framework Convention on Climate Change. They are the bodies that have taken the role of leadership, and they have been providing leadership and encouraging partnership in caring for the environment. But the problem
Okay.
here is that a lot of world leaders are actually opposing these policies. This
Why?
policy started a long time ago. In 1949, we had these policies. We have the first one, the United Nations Scientific Conference that was held in New York, and that conference was actually to, it was adopted to conserve the environment. We had another convention in Stockholm in 1972. We had the Vienna Convention in 1985, and they were actually to save the ozone layer. So there are lots of policies that have come up, lot of policies, and leaders are the ones who have put these policies in place. But the problem is that they are not implemented, they are not accepted, and they are not being implemented. And that is why we have this issue of climate change becoming a very serious problem. So I think that's basically the relationship between.
Wow. So are you saying that, the political will is not there, to follow through? Because if leaders, can you speak on this Paris Agreement?
Yes.
I know that the US put out, yes.
Yes, like I said, we have a lot of policies. We have the Kyoto Protocol, we have the Paris Agreement, the Cancun Agreement, we have the European Union policies, we have the Montreal Protocols. All these protocols were actually to stabilize the atmospheric greenhouse gases to a level that it will not be harmful to the climate system. That's the essence of this, all these policies. And so, the Paris Agreement, it was actually to keep global temperature below 2 degrees Celsius and also to cut carbon emission. And it was adopted in 2015. But you see, after 2 years of that agreement, Donald Trump withdrew from the agreement because we had 198 UN members that signed into that agreement, and about 189 accounts for the 55% of total global emission. So maybe that was the reason why Donald Trump had to withdraw, because US is one of the major contributors of these greenhouse gases that cause climate change. But thank God Biden has rejoined. He rejoined in February 19th this year, and it was actually to reposition US as one of the global climate solution.
Wow. I want to say that no doubt, even the virtual leaders, climate change conference, which was held 2 days ago, I think 3 days ago, 40 world leaders were there. Even the president of Nigeria was also there. And, they committed to, reducing emissions. For the US by as much as 50%, Canada 45%, but the UK said by 2035, they will reduce emissions by about 78%. Can you speak to that?
78 or 80%, yes.
Yes.
So the UK has actually accepted to reduce the emission of carbon by 78 or 80% by 2035. And for them to hit this target, I think it requires them trying to look into using electric vehicles, riding more of bicycles, using solar renewable energy like solar energy, hydro, and all that. So these are just basically like the Montreal Protocol. The Montreal Protocol is actually to regulate the ozone depleting substances, and the developed countries have agreed to phase it out by 2020, and we are in 2021, and these substances are still being emitted into the atmosphere, while the developing countries have agreed to phase them out by 2030. 2030 is just about 9 years from now. Are we sure we are getting this off from the environment by that time? So that's the issue we have. The issue is just the fact that we have a lot of world leaders who are not really in agreement with the United Nations. The United Nations, like the UNEP and the UNFCCC, have done so much, a lot of effort to see that this climate issue is brought into the international attention. But, they are opposing it. But it's a good thing that they are not relenting on making sure that everyone embraces the issue of climate change.
Wow, awesome. I know that the Conference of Parties is taking place, in the UK sometime in November. of this year. What are your expectations from that conference regarding climate change?
Well, my expectation is to influence policy processes as to get adaptation policies accepted and implemented. It must be implemented. It must be accepted. that is my expectation, and also to enhance connectivity, across different policy making levels, from the region level to the countries, to states, and all that. Those are some of my expectations, and also to enforce to enforce this issue of climate change. And if possible, there should be penalty. Maybe because there are no penalty, that's why a lot of leaders just go scot-free having these climate change issues rising.
Wow, amazing. If you are just joining us tonight, I've been speaking with Dr. Mrs. Chioma Unegbu Abiazem. She's an expert in the area of environment, and she's speaking tonight to the topic leadership and climate change. Dropping amazing nuggets. I want to celebrate you, madam. I know that people are watching you from all over the world, and we'll be celebrating you even much more. But there are a few comments that has come out tonight. I just want to say, someone is saying, what's Nigeria doing about climate change? Can you speak to that?
I think I had to laugh first, Okay. I think we are really far behind. We're really far behind. No, the policies there are not there. There are a lot of policies, even at this level from Nigeria, but they are not implemented at all. So they are not even been accepted. Talk more of them implementing them. So I don't know. For Nigeria, I think we're still very far.
I think you should. We want to. I know you are not in the public sector, but you are the ones that come up with ideas and crafting ideas so that government can implement those policies. What would you like to say to them on this platform? What would you like to say, concerning Nigeria in the area of climate change?
I think first and foremost is to sensitize the stakeholders at all levels.
Okay.
Stakeholders should be sensitized, and there should be public awareness. They should create this awareness, in the public, either in the media, social medias, television, radio. It can even go with local dialects. Let them be in local dialects. Let people just get aware of this climate change issue. They should build billboards all over the whole place
and create awareness.
Yes, to create awareness, and then it could even be in dialects. And like I said, also they should also be integrated into the curriculum. I think that's another angle. It should be, because I'm looking at it from the perspective of the academics as an academia. So it should be integrated into the curriculum from kindergarten to the tertiary level. If that is done, the children will be aware of this. They know that I'm not supposed to, to dispose this waste indiscriminately. They know that I'm not supposed to burn this fossil fuel and all that. So let the children be aware of some of these things. So it can even be cartooned. I think the whole issue here is the issue of climate change should be handled even more than it's the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic is being handled.
Because why did they say that?
Yes, because for the pandemic, it only affects the human. But when you talk of climate change, it's going to affect both the human, the plants, the animals, the infrastructures, everything around you. That's what climate change, affects. But when it comes to coronavirus, it's just the human. So, and it's not the way the pandemic was handled. So, if the climate change issues can be handled even more than the pandemic was handled, I think we will combat or mitigate the issue of climate change.
Okay. Thank you so much. Someone is asking, says, what can you do to educate children about climate change and its impact in the future? I know you've spoken about that, but can you speak to that again for clarity?
Yeah, like I said, it should be cartooned, and then there should be a climate change club. You know, something like you have the Rotary Club, where you have Interact at the high school level, you have the Rotaract at the tertiary level, and then the Rotary as a larger body and all that. So there should be a climate change club where children will just be aware, you know, create awareness. Children will know about this. So even as they are growing, they know that you know, there are certain things that should not be done to save the environment. I think that's basically what should be done. And then the issue of deforestation, you know, that has really caused a lot of problem in climate change, and people are taking it, you know, very lightly. If you cut down a tree, okay, if you cut down a tree, you are cutting off your survival chance. That's the language. Cut down a tree, you are cutting off your survival chance. So
I want to also go ahead.
Encourage that you know, the government should engage on afforestation programs to create forests, and then to also increase carbon capture. So they should when you cut one tree, 2 trees should be planted. I think that's just it, because you plant a tree, you plant a healthy life. That's just the language. Because the trees actually take up most of this carbon dioxide, and it is one of the most difficult and important greenhouse gas that is causing climate change. And the fact is because it's the radiant light finds it very difficult to pass through the carbon dioxide, because they don't absorb, they absorb heat very quickly. So radiant light finds it very difficult to pass through them. So they absorb heat very quickly. So they see the carbon dioxide have heavier molecules than other gases. So, and we know that when you plant trees, through the process of photosynthesis, it takes up carbon dioxide and water and gives out oxygen. So when you have that happening, you are having more of oxygen in the atmosphere and less of carbon dioxide. So that is why we have the essence of the planting of trees is quite important.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. I just want to say that, you're sharing so much depth tonight. I want to salute you. I want to just celebrate you. Now, for those who are on the platform, you know, I just want to speak, you know, concerning what you just said about the impact of climate change on the environment, on afforestation. You know, when you look at the farmers and herdsmen's crisis, you know, up north in Nigeria, you know, there's a challenge with afforestation, you know, and you're finding that a lot of these herdsmen are coming down south, you know, for the cattle, you know, the cows to eat, you know, and so on and so forth. Can you speak to that? The challenge, you know, the impact of that, you know, is it deforestation or afforestation on even security, the security of a nation?
The challenge there is the fact that these animals or the cows or whatever, you know, come up to take up most of these plants, you know, leaving the bare soil open, okay? And like I said, if we reduce vegetation, that means we're increasing carbon. If we reduce it, we're increasing carbon. And then secondly, these animals drop their waste, like the cow dungs or whatever. And when they drop this cow dung, you know, when they drop their waste, you know, on the street or something like that, this waste emits methane. And methane is a greenhouse gas. I'm just trying to give some of the challenges, you know.
Okay.
They drop this waste, and this when they decompose, they emit methane, and methane is a greenhouse gas that still goes into the atmosphere and trap heat. Okay. Instead of using this waste and then converting them into biogas, because you know in some developed world, they actually channel their waste, you know, the human waste, maybe their soccer waste or something. They channel them to their kitchen, to their cylinder, because when this waste undergo anaerobic conditions, you know, anaerobic conditions, they emit methane, which is our pure gas for cooking.
Wow.
So, but you see, these herdsmen are down dropping this waste all over, and then they are also increasing methane into the atmosphere. They are using up those plants that should have been taking off carbon dioxide. So at the end of it all, they are still creating more problem to the climate.
No, I'm just talking. I'm even talking about, well spoken. I'm even talking about, cutting down of trees, and even the challenges of the atmosphere, the vegetation drying up, having to do more of irrigation now, irrigation farming. Can you speak to that, the impact of that, even on food security?
Yes. For the you are talking about the Fulani herdsmen, isn't it now? I think if I understand your questions properly.
Yes, I mean, obviously, that's in one part. They're looking for what to eat for their cows, and they're coming down south because you are having deforestation, cutting down on trees, and even the drying up of the of the atmosphere. The land is not as fertile as it ought to be. Can you speak on that? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think for those herdsmen, there's a lot of food security issue there. A lot of food security issue because the animals are not taking up most of these vegetations that would have been taken up by the human beings. Okay, and then you begin to lack food. If I understand your question, I think that question.
Yeah, well, what I was saying was that the reason why there's a lot of movement down south, cows, is because the land there is almost desert.
Dry.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's dry. Yeah.
Oh, the land here is dry. Exactly. So if the land here is dry, no vegetation. So that means that means they have issues with irrigation.
Yeah.
Taking care of the farmlands there, and you have exposure of the soil, and that will affect their plants because there are no trees around. So the trees actually cover the soil from getting heated up, and when this happens, your plants cannot grow well. So that's basically what it is.
Yeah. Somebody is asking a question. It says, do you think poverty has played a role in the issue of climate change?
Poverty, yes. Poverty has played lots of roles in the issue of climate change.
Okay. In what way? I mean, even when you talk about climate change, when you talk about to the average man on the street, I mean, as long as they can, have food on the table, they're not really too keen about climate change. I mean, for them, disposing waste for them they can dispose waste in any manner they so desire. They don't understand the technicalities of what you are speaking. What would you say to the average man on the street? I know you shared in passing earlier. Yes, I think there's a network challenge. Yeah. I was saying that what would you say to the average man on the street? Well, for those who have been joining us tonight, I've been speaking with my sister and my friend, Chioma Abiazem, and we're talking about the issue of climate change and leadership. And there's been so much nugget that she's added tonight. She was talking about the issue of afforestation and deforestation, and we've also looked at the area of food security, and also in the area of the leaders virtual summit that was held by President Biden recently. Yes, so I want to ask, you're welcome. I want to ask, somebody is asking here. He says, what is the environmental solution to the farmers and herdsmen conflict?
I mentioned it here. Environmental problem to to it is the fact that the waste they drop, okay, can also lead to pollution in water. The waste they drop will always emit methane, because when they undergo anaerobic condition, they emit methane. And the fact that the plants, the animals take up most of the vegetations, okay, that would have taken up carbon dioxide, these animals take them up. So these are the environmental issues that are being caused by these herdsmen with their cattle. Yeah.
I know you are not you're not in government, so you can't speak on on implementation or enforcement or policy formulation. But I guess what the gentleman is saying, that how can it be resolved? To stop. I know there's
Yes, it should be. Okay, the way it
the
should be stopped. There should be ranching. That's what we've been advocating
ranching.
for.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Well,
there should be ranching. Let them have these animals in an enclosed environment. So with that, it is easier to control or regulate these environmental problems that are caused by these animals. Because I know too well that if there is ranching, there's a particular place these animals are kept, we can get their waste and then convert this way, because there's a project I'm actually on now. We are
okay.
using animal waste, and converting them into biogas, and then we're using them to cook, we're using them to cook, basically we're using them to cook. So if there are places animals are, we can collect this waste and then convert them into biogas and then use them to cook. So those are some of the ways we can also stop the destruction or the effect of climate change.
Wow. You've spoken so well tonight. You talked about the role of leaders in the area of climate change. I know the world leaders have committed to reducing the level of emissions. The US has said they're going to reduce by 50 to 52%. Canada has said they'll reduce emissions by about 45%. But Africa, I've not really gotten data from Africa. Can you speak as the African leaders? Have they committed to any, level of, in terms of percentages?
Yeah, like I have not seen any African leader who has made any commitments on how to cut down carbon emission. No one
Wow.
has done that.
Wow.
Yes. And we have the fact that, like for the CACUM agreement, the CACUM agreement in Mexico was actually to support financially the developing countries,
Okay.
on how to adopt or adapt climate change and how to cut down the carbon emission. Okay. And the developed countries have mobilized about 100 billion US dollars in the climate funding to support the developing countries. But even for the developing countries, especially for Africa, I've not seen any African leader on climate change who has made any kind of declaration on how to cut down this emission.
Wow. I know that China is also, they have, also made some commitments in the area of.
Yes, China has made some commitments. They have agreed to cut down the carbon emission by 2035. China too is looking at 2035 to cut down the carbon emission. So Colombia is one that said by 2030 they'll be free from fossil fuel and release of fossil fuel. Colombia, we have different countries that have made a lot of commitment, but for Africa, I've not seen anyone. And that is why it's a serious problem if we don't handle the issue of climate change very, very seriously now.
I know some policymakers will be listening, to us even as we're speaking right now, because this program has been, people are listening from all over the world, and I want to salute you and celebrate you for your sharing your thoughts. I think someone else also, shared tonight about the area of, somebody has spoken about the solution to the conflict. Somebody asked that what is Nigeria doing regarding climate change? Now, I want us to address, this because it's also very important. In the area of climate change, for example, the area of food security, and also the area of electric cars, technology, because a lot of, the revenue from, for example, Nigeria is from oil.
Yeah.
And once, there's a reduction in emissions by, the countries like the US, UK, obviously they are shifting to electric cars. What's going to be the impact of that on our own economy?
Nigeria economy now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we export oil. That is what we depend on. What's
Yes.
going to be the impact if there is going to be a reduction in emissions by most of these countries in the next 10 years? Or, some of them have started already, using electric cars. What's going to happen, to our own economy? What's likely to happen to the African economy?
There'll be a problem, because we are all depending on oil. We are all depending on fossil fuel. So saying you want to bring in electric cars and all that, knowing Nigeria, Nigerians would that they have seen the right thing to do, but they don't want to shift base. They don't want to shift base. But I think if the government of Nigeria can take this seriously, to see that we make use of these electric vehicles, ride more on bicycles and all that, I think it will be a better way of having a clean environment. But on the Nigeria economy, it will affect the Nigeria economy, because we depend more on oil. We depend more on fossil fuel, so it will affect it. But even as affecting it, we should also look at the fact that we are trying to get a clean climate system.
Wow. So what you're saying, if I can, clarify, is that we need to begin to plan ahead, because if there's going to be a reduction, in emissions, obviously those countries are not going to be producing cars that use petrol,
Yes.
And most of the cars that we're buying, we don't produce most of these cars. We buy them from, developed countries.
Yes.
And even our oil, they will not need the oil as much as.
So it's going to affect the economy, actually, like I said. But then we need to think of the climate change so that we can have a green climate system.
Wow. You have spoken so well tonight. I've been speaking with Chioma Unegbu Abiezem, Dr. Mrs. I've been talking about the issue of climate change, and she's explained it in layman's terms as much as she can, telling us the implications of nations not adhering to the Paris Agreement, the protocols. And thank God for the new leadership in the US. They've taken the issue of climate change seriously, and everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, as we begin to round up, I want you to speak the consequences. You have highlighted the consequences of not adhering to climate change. I want you now to speak to, from your own being in the academia. You talked about curriculum, even in schools and so on and so forth. What are 3 things that you think that government should do right now, if you are given the opportunity to speak? Because right now people are listening all over the world. What are the 3 things you recommend, very quickly?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it when I spoke earlier. I said the first one. Okay, let me look at it this way. There must be a defined vision first.
Okay.
And in this defined vision, there must be a mission statement. And in this mission statement, there must be mapped out goals that has to follow a stepwise approach. Now, the first approach, like I mentioned earlier, I said the stakeholders must be sensitized. The second approach is the fact that it has to be publicly create awareness of climate change. And I also mentioned being integrating into the curriculum, to integrate into the curriculum from kindergarten to the tertiary level. I think that's one. And then I also mentioned the fact that the government should engage in afforestation program. It's a very key. Is a very key one. They should engage in afforestation program, and this will enable to create forests and also increase the capturing of carbon. And the fact also that there should be enforcement. There should be enforcement of climate change, and if possible, there should be penalty, because if there are no penalty, people will just go scot-free. Defaulters will just go that way without being punished. Because if there were penalties, I think the Donald Trump would have actually withdrew from that agreement. So there should be penalties. So these are just ways government can bring this climate change issues to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, for us, I mean, quite a number of us before this time, this session. I mean, I was aware of the the consequences of not following through with climate change, but you've broken it down for us. You made it very easy. Quite a number of people have appreciated you tonight, and a lot of questions have come up. You want to say something?
Yes, I want to say something about the consequences. It's very important I speak very much more on the consequences. Now, the consequences are sequentially enormous. Like I said, they're going to be a boomerang on health. They're going to be a boomerang on the economy. They're going to be a boomerang on plants, on the animals. There'll be unusual weather events. There'll be unusual rainfall and all that. These are the consequences of this climate change. And when you look at the health aspect, and that is why we need to talk about it. When you talk about how health aspect, the UV rays that actually comes down or that falls on the surface of the earth, increasing the temperature of the earth, affects the skin, and that's what causes skin cancer that we call carcinoma disease. So it's also causing cataracts when you have global warming. Yes, it causes cataracts. It causes birth defects because of the pollutants that you have that are released. Like I mentioned, the hydrofluorocarbons. They are chemicals that are used as coolants in ACs and refrigerators. Some of these pollutants, we inhale them, even from our various homes, we inhale them. So they lead to birth defect, they lead to reproductive problem, and also to respiratory problem. And when you talk about the economy, like I said, if there is global warming, increase of temperature in the earth surface, there will be melting of the permafrost. And when the permafrost melts, you have increase in the sea level. And when the sea level is there's an overflow, you're going to have flooding and flooding erosion. So if they're going to be flooding, it will affect farmers. So farmers will lose money. The government will also lose money, because there will be erosion. People will be displaced, and the government will have to reaccommodate these people. And then the roads will be damaged. The government will have to put these roads in order again and all that. So money that would have been used for something else would have been used for this. So these are the problems associated or consequences associated with climate change, and that's why I said it needs to be handled like the pandemic.
Wow. I know recently, I mean, there was flooding in Texas. That's in the United States of America. I mean, global warming issues, earthquakes. We're having so many challenges, with the, in the environment. So I think that the urgency, it's a crisis, like you said. It's a crisis, and it should be handled with urgency. And I know that even for those who are listening, all over the world to us tonight, there might be some people that are in positions of authority, and you being an expert in that area of the environment, you are speaking and creating an awareness, and letting us know that not acting on time, there are consequences, even for not just for this generation, for the next generation. So I just want to appreciate you tonight. Just two more questions before we round up. I want you to say in the chat, thank you to Dr. Chioma Abiazem, just say thank you to her, you know, because she's shown up tonight. She's an extremely powerful lady, you know, and also very humble as well. We want to salute you because I don't joke with those in the academia, you know. You know, I'm sure some of your students will be listening, you know, to this chat. You know, we appreciate you. The next question is: do you think there should be a climate hub where waste is brought for conservation, so for conversion to bioenergy?
Yes. Most of my research has to do with waste to wealth, you know,
Okay.
converting waste to wealth. I think that is just the best way we can solve the issue of climate change.
Wow.
If we can reduce, reuse, and recycle our waste, I think this will also help in giving us a green climate system. I have done a research work on using sugarcane peels and cassava peels. I prepared them into nanocrystals and I use them in treating wastewater. So you can see I
Wow.
removed waste from the environment and I use the same waste I removed from the environment to also treat or remove waste from water.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that has just been my area. Yes. And presently, I'm also working on a project that we are fabricating a water-based generator.
Wow.
We are fabricating a water-based generator.
Water-based?
Yes, water-based generator. For those of us here.
Is that on sale now?
It's not on sale. We are still on the project because we don't want to bring in anything fossil fuel. We don't want to bring in anything fossil fuel at all close. So we're going to use water-based, which is a complete zero tolerance to pollutants, complete zero tolerance. So we're using water-based generator, and we are getting our materials from scraps. So we're going to take scraps from maybe the mechanic village site, anywhere we see scraps, we just use them and then construct the generator, and then we use water-based to run the generator.
Wow, water generator running on water. That's fast. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. I want to salute you. That's creativity, innovation. You know, so even in the midst of all the crisis, opportunities are available, you know, to be explored. You know, particularly for small business owners, you know. I know some use a lot of some people go to the waters and take a lot of things that have been disposed and turn it into bangles. They turn it into you know, clothing material and so on and so forth. You know, and so you're talking about waste to wealth.
That's where the 3 R's of environmental pollution comes in. We call them the reduce, reuse, and recycle. So most of our waste being disposed, they should be reused. They should be
reduce, reuse, and recycle. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Now you've added so much value tonight. I know your husband is listening. He's a good friend of mine, Fortune. You know, I love him so much. I respect him, and I love your family. You know, I mean, you guys you have a very warm family, a very remarkable family. I want you to speak. Who are your mentors? Because you have so much knowledge and so much depth.
See, I would say I have mentors. I have a mentor.
Wow.
I have a mentor, and he's a great one.
Wow.
My mentor is Professor Oladele Osibanjo.
Oh, my uncle. Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, I think my husband has told me this before. He said,
wow, he's a small world, though.
Yeah.
He's an expert on that because you are almost sounding like him, you know.
That's why I said I don't have mentors. I have a mentor. Yes, wow. Professor Oladele Osibanjo is my mentor. He's a professor in analytical and environmental chemistry. Wow. And he was instrumental to establishing the environmental and environmental chemistry and pollution control unit, chemistry department, University of Ibadan. He
Wow.
was such a great man, you know. And luckily we were the pioneer sets of that unit, you know, the
Wow.
environmental. So we're the first set of people he taught environmental chemistry. So he gave his best, you know, in that set. Professor Shibanjo made us to see ourselves as environment icon. And that's why when I come across people, I tell them I am an environment icon.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
So he was such a great
No, he's
mentor.
not once. He's still alive. He's still alive. He was 75.
He's a great mentor. He's still alive, yes. Sorry, he's a great mentor, a wonderful person. And Professor Shibanjo, I will not forget when he was taking us a particular area, environmental toxicology. He was talking about persistent organic pollutants. We have a lot of them: aldrin, polychlorinated hydrocarbons, and all that, furans and dioxins. And he said to us, he said, "How many of you eat suya here?" And everybody just raised up their hands. We eat suya. I said, "Fine. Now, what you use in preparing those suya, which is the firewood you use in preparing those suya, you know, when they burn, they give out dioxins and furans that are persistent organic pollutants, and this pollutant deposits, you know, on the suya. And then when you eat, that means you're taking a lot of these dioxins and furans. And unfortunately, these persistent pollutants they are bioaccumulative and they are persistent." And then he has said, "So how many people still want to eat suya?" And everybody said no. And I tell you, that's actually made me, for a very long time, I you know, dread taking suya, because I just see it that if I take suya, I am taking dioxin and furan. And I'll always remember Professor Shibanjo that. No.
What's the side effect of that? What's the side effect of this dioxin and furan? What's the side effect?
They are carcinogenic.
Wow.
So their characteristics is the fact that they are persistent in the environment. They are bioaccumulative. They are biomagnified, you know, and they are very toxic. So, and the side effect is that they are carcinogenic. So when you take them at a very high concentration, it leads to cancer.
Wow. 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 And some people will be praying and saying, you know, cancer, you know, maybe it's a spiritual challenge, you know, not knowing that.
It's not a spiritual challenge. I tell my students all the time, if you look at a very long time ago, you know, a long time ago, you find out that people don't suffer from cancer and all that. But it's so very, very rampant now. You find people who suffer from cancer, and that has to do with the environment, the things you take in orally, the things you inhale, and the things you touch. We call them the dermal roots, the oral roots, and the inhaling roots. So it's either you eat them, it's either you touch them, or either you inhale them.
Wow. Honestly, you know, this has been, I didn't know that this session could be so powerful. I mean, I was thinking, and even for some of the listeners, probably they were just thinking it was going to be very technical, and not knowing that, you know, it's just something that we can, you know, touch. You know, climate change is actually live. It's not something abstract, you know. We want to just celebrate you. Honestly, I know that there'll be a lot of people that will be watching the replay. Somebody said, this is superb, you know, Omoni Abiodun, you know, said it's superb. Olaiwole from Jos, you know, my good friend, is saying, thank you, Doc. You know, quite a number of people have shown up tonight from all over the world, and people will be listening also in the replay.
Thank you.
Dr. Chioma, we know that you have spent so much, you know, time in trying to break this down. We can't repay you financially, but God will bless you beyond measure.
I don't mind still continuing the discussion.
I know, because this is what you are passionate about, you know. I mean, this is
so passionate about the environment. So passionate about the environment. So before we end this expose, if you have, do you have any other question for me?
No, I mean, you're just going to round up and just parting short and just encourage us. Yeah. Before you.
So before I end this expose, I want to say that I would like to contribute my quota to seeing that we save the environment is saved. And
Okay.
I will do that by starting from my immediate environment, which is Ogun State, where I reside. Imo State, where I come from, I know you're going to look at that aspect because Imo State is under siege right now.
Yeah,
Imo
well,
State, where I
it's
come
going to come
from,
to pass. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and Nigeria at large, hoping that the government will, consider professionals, consider
Yeah.
professionals as
Yeah. Yeah.
consultants in contractual capacities so that to ensure that the issues of environment equates with the international standard.
Yeah. I'd just like to, before you round up, my uncle, Professor Oladile Oshibanjo, it was instrumental to the to to the putting up together of the Federal Environmental Protection Agency,
Yes, it was.
run by Dr. Aino, the late Dr. Aino,
Yes.
and they did a lot of work there, and so even the Basel Convention, even in University of Ibadan,
Pardon.
yeah, and even globally, is well regarded as
Well regarded
yeah,
and known. Yeah.
yes, United Nations, UNEP, and also my younger brother works with UNEP. He's
Oh,
been with
that's
UNEP for almost 2 decades. He did a master's in environmental engineering in the University of Nottingham. So he
oh,
works with you. Yeah. So he's been in UNEP. So I'm not an environmentalist, but I'm also,
you have a lot of idea,
yes.
a lot of knowledge.
One of my friends that spoke last week on leadership and talent management, Dr. Yiho Udoyi.
Yes, I listened to him.
Yeah, he also has a PhD in environmental engineering, University of Nottingham. So I know environment is key. It's not something that we should take lightly. And I just want to salute you and celebrate you tonight. Just one on a parting note, just in 20 seconds, what would you like to say as we close?
I think before we close, I would want to drop some catchy climate change slogans here so that even our audience, will lend their voices to ensure that we have a clean climate system. I want to say here, stand up for climate change. Let's join hands together to stop the climate chaos. Save the nature, save the future. Treat your planet like you want to treat yourself. Think climate change, think green environment.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. On this note, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight on this session of Leadership Talk with Adegoke. We'll be looking at leadership and climate change, the 33rd edition of this session. So until same time next week, by His grace, I wish you a wonderful Sunday evening. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.